Michael, thank you so much. Great to be here.
Thank you. And we've all been watching in horror at the rise of anti-Israel protests and encampments. Can you give us some insights into the tactics being employed by these anti-Israel hate groups?
Yeah, we have been working at Stand With Us with students for over 2 decades now, combating hate and misinformation, anti-Semitism, and these conspiracy theories and horrible things against Israel. And we've seen a dramatic rise in all of these issues since October 7th, unfortunately culminating with these encampment-style protests that are happening around the country. What we're seeing now is students creating these camps on campus in centrally located areas, often the main quads. They're camping overnight. They're chanting hateful slogans and decorating the encampment with hateful signs. They are preventing Jewish and Zionist students from accessing campus spaces, from going through the main quad. And these encampments are meant to be disruptive. We have a document released by students at Columbia and Yale who are part of the encampments, basically promoting their intention to continue escalating and occupying more and more spaces on more and more campuses until administrations around the country start to cave to their demands, which of course their central demand is for the university to boycott, divest, and sanction against Israel and join, the hateful BDS movement that we have been battling for decades now, 2 decades at least. The BDS movement has always been something that we have been concerned about as a community because of its widespread use of misinformation, its use of anti-Semitic tropes, and the hate spewed by many of its leaders and indeed its co-founder. And most recently, they actually came out and endorsed the October 7th massacre as powerful. And so it's no surprise that these encampments are turning into an environment with the hate that this movement promotes. And not only are they really hateful in nature, but these encampments are preventing students from accessing the resources that they have paid for. We have seen instances where students are being blocked from accessing the library. We have seen instances like at Columbia, for example, when they closed the campus to anybody who doesn't live on campus, meaning that students who live outside of the campus can't come on campus and access the resources that they paid for. We've seen instances where TAs or professors have canceled their classes and or moved them into the encampment, which of course means that Jewish and Israeli and Zionist students can't attend. Some schools have even opted to offer virtual courses for students who feel unsafe. Notably, they do this rather than enforcing their own policies to actually ensure student safety. But these are presenting a really difficult challenge for many of our students. And, Jewish and Zionist identities are the primary targets of these encampments. But of course, these protests negatively impact the entire campus climate. And to make matters worse, a good portion of these agitators at many of these encampments come from off campus, even at private universities. I met with a student last week from a private university in Chicago, and one of them shared that when she was walking around campus one night, a grown man approached her and said, and she was wearing identifiably Jewish and Zionist symbols, and he told her to return to Germany to be gassed.
Wow.
When I was a student on campus, and even now, but especially as a student on my private, safe college campus, best practice was don't walk alone at night, right? And now imagine how students are feeling knowing that there's this hateful campaign that is escalating each day with people participating that have no connection to campus and nobody knows who they are. There's a really increased sense of fear on these campuses right now.
So how is Stand With Us responding to these encampments, and what kind of support are we giving to Jewish and pro-Israel students on the ground?
Yeah. We are working around the clock to help students respond to these issues and to prevent escalation wherever possible. And we have departments devoted to the needs of students that approach this from multiple different angles. We, of course, have our incredibly devoted legal team working around the clock to help protect and enforce student rights. We have an entire staff of regional managers who help students plan programs and rallies, combat instances of bias, and also provide them with one-on-one mentorship. And we have our research and strategy team dedicated to putting together educational materials, strategic campaigns and initiatives, and helping students respond to claims and research issues that they are discussing on campus. And each day we're receiving tons of intake. From the legal perspective, we are actively pursuing new lawsuit angles and Title VI actions in multiple districts against multiple schools. That being said, my expertise is really on our campus and strategic work. And our campus work has three main areas of focus: cultivating and supporting leaders, creating meaningful Israel education, and confronting anti-Semitism. And our campus leaders, namely our Stand With Us Emerson Fellows and our first-year leadership interns, have hosted current events briefings, organized vigils and rallies. They facilitated communities of support and advocated for change on their campuses. And we've helped students mobilize in the face of, bias, ceasefire, or divestment resolutions, report and respond to bias in the classroom, counter misinformation online, and also connect with allies, which is a huge issue right now. We are working with students to communicate with administrators and advocate for their needs. But of course, these encampments have required a more specific strategic response that involves empowering students to act, providing them the resources to act, and ensuring that they do act safely. We've created an entire toolkit that helps students plan counter demonstrations and rallies. We've provided them with guidance and best practices for standing tall in the face of this hate while also staying safe. And we're helping students write and publish op-eds and letters, helping students figure out which talking points will help them best communicate their story and which will best resonate on their campuses. And we're putting together materials for counter campaigns like petitions, peace movement pledges, and in some cases where students are feeling especially vulnerable or need a little bit extra confidence in ensuring their own safety, we'll also even help them organize events like Krav Maga classes. And of course, we're constantly working to keep our educational material up to date. We're constantly rethinking and reevaluating our strategies for addressing these issues and coming up with new ways to approach these challenging situations. And so, shameless plug, if you watching or anyone are having these issues on campus, please have them reach out yourself to campus@standwithus.com.
And so finally, what advice or action items would you offer to Jewish or pro-Israel students who may feel intimidated or threatened by the protests that they're seeing?
Yeah, first, I would say it's perfectly reasonable to be scared right now. Since October 7th, I have been telling students that I do not envy their position. And for me, that's even truer now. You are facing challenges that we have not seen in decades. That being said, it has never been more important to practice bravery and conviction. And I say practice intentionally. Each time you act and you stand tall in big ways and in small ways, doing it the next time will get easier. And despite the horrific rhetoric and violence that we are seeing on campuses, our generation of Jews has more security, freedom, rights, and even allies than ever before. And all of those are guaranteed to us, especially through the cause that we're fighting for, which is Israel's right to exist, of course. So my best advice is to stand tall, stay proud of who you are, and keep fighting. You are standing on the shoulders of generations of Jews who have taken on this type of hate and won. And you have their stories, their traditions, and their strength and their legacy. And like them, we will come out of this stronger than before. The Jewish people are not going anywhere. Israel is not going anywhere, and we are not going anywhere. So don't let these students who know nothing about you, your identity, Israel, or this conflict ever make you doubt that. And for the community members watching, you have a crucial role too. Now more than ever, it's really important that we focus all of our efforts on uplifting our students, amplifying their voices, following their lead, and raising them up as the future leaders of the movement. But of course, most importantly, we cannot allow these campus extremists to distract us from what matters most in this moment, which is bringing home the hostages and freeing Israelis and Palestinians from the terror of Hamas. And that's what we're going to do.